What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise Postgame show. Today, the Blazers lose again. They lose their 9th home game in a row, falling this time to the Houston Rockets 123-107. And while that looks like a pretty big losing margin, and it is, this game was in the balance for quite a while until the Rockets pulled away late behind. Some phenomenal play from Jalen Green. It was just leaked today that, he's about to have a kid, so I don't know if that inspired him, but Jalen Green goes off, 11 for 19, 27 points, including a poster dunk over Anthony Simons in transition. Alperen Sengun, the Blazers held him in check to start this game. Duop Reath was actually outscoring him in the first half, but he got going a little bit in the second half, 19 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists for him as the Rockets take care of business. The Rockets, who have been a bad road team all year long, get a road win over the Blazers, who once again tonight were shorthanded. No DeAndre Ayton, no Jeremy Grant, no Scoot Henderson, no Malcolm Brogdon. Toumani Camara was back. He played some. Ryan Ruper got some minutes. So we're going to talk about those guys' performances. Chris Murray filled up the stat sheet but continued to struggle to hit the three ball. And Delano Banton, we got to talk about how many shot attempts he's taking. But first, Eric, how's it going, man?
Oh, good. What's up, everyone? Thanks for joining us. Hope everyone's having a good Friday. I don't know how many times I have to tell people I'm not bald, but...
Was somebody saying you're bald?
Spencer says, not sure why I always thought Eric was bald. I don't know why. Like, is that from you? Like,
that probably is from me, not gonna lie.
I've never been bald. I used to cut my hair very short on purpose, but yeah, I don't know.
What do we gotta do as a community to get you to just like grow your hair out for like 5 years?
Well, I mean, during COVID, I grew it out for like a year, and it was pretty long.
Yeah, but like I mean like 5 years, like it's to your shoulders. I want to see you with hair to your shoulders. I think we would get more views if you had hair to your shoulders.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Oh man, where do you want to start with this one? Because we do have some talking points, and I kind of just want to make this a pretty efficient stream. So let's just dive right into things with whatever you want to start off with, Eric.
Start with Delano Banton, I guess.
So, okay, my question for you and for chat. Was this a good game by Delano Banton?
I mean, I don't think it was, like, bad or anything, but it wasn't, like, great either. Like, you see the 30 points, and it looks good, but, yeah, I mean, a lot of players can score 30 points if they get 27 shots off.
Yeah. I see some people just like, oh, Banton looks so good, and some people rightfully criticizing, he hasn't been efficient, right? And I was just kind of curious as to what chat would think about a performance like this, because yes, he puts 30 points on the board. He actually got hot from 3 in the first quarter. He hit 3 straight threes and then shot a fourth 3 in a row, which was a pull-up in transition, which, Eric, if you hit 3 threes in a row, I am completely cool with you shooting a pull-up 3 in transition. That, you earned that heat check, right? So so no problem with that whatsoever. And in this game, he shot the 3-ball well. He was 4 for 10, 40%. You love to see it. Also got some rebounds. But at the same time, he seems to, I don't know. I don't know if he played like this in previous stops, or maybe Jeremy Grant and his veteran mentorship is wearing off on Delano Banton, because one of the biggest things we've been critical of Jeremy Grant for is just driving, putting his head down, and only passing as a last resort. And for the good things Banton did in this game, far too often he's just putting his head down, and you can tell he's not going to pass, and he's going to shoot some... Even if he doesn't get by anyone, he's going to try and hang and shoot some BS shot. He even made 1 or 2 of them. But there's a reason why he was 6 for 17 inside the arc this game. The drives that he kept continuously forcing into traffic, getting double teamed, was extremely frustrating, because other than that, he played a good game. He knocked down threes. He got to the line. He had 5 assists, only 2 turnovers, right? But you can make the argument he should have had 10 assists, right? And maybe a few less points if he didn't force as many drives. And Banton is just such an intriguing player because obviously he's a 6'9" point guard, and his shot has been a question mark. If he can hit three balls, I think he can be a good player, but that's if he makes the right decision when he drives. This game was kind of infuriating at times, especially after the first quarter, where he was just forcing stuff that I don't know what he was thinking or seeing. And it's something that he definitely has to improve on. And 10 for 27 shooting is not good. And he's been more efficient in Portland than in Boston, but he still hasn't been efficient. He still has a true shooting percentage around 50%. That's not good.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this for a couple streams now, that like when you have that size as a point guard and you're handling the ball and you're playing against mostly shorter defenders, we know he can get that shot off, and that's not the point. It's like, well, one is if you're going to shoot it that much, you got to make more.
Yeah.
But second of all, you have to be able to show an ability to use that size and the ability to see over the top of the defender to play make a little bit. And I know he had 5 assists, but I really found myself wanting to see him use that more as a playmaker to set up teammates, because I felt like a lot of people. I mean, Chris didn't shoot the ball particularly well this game, but other than him, I felt like a lot of people really should have had more opportunities to shoot the ball in this game.
Yeah, 100%. And he goes 2 for 3 from the field in the fourth quarter, right? He had shot 24 times before the fourth quarter. That's insane. That's actually kind of insane. He was 8 for 24 after 3 quarters. And Todd Keith says if he was 13 for 27, would we be having this conversation, though? Not to the same extent, but it goes beyond just his shooting numbers, where you could tell that there was multiple plays where he was 100% going to shoot no matter what. And I've talked about, okay, we need forwards that can handle the ball, like make reads, pass the ball, get to the rim, and finish and hit some threes, right? We need like dynamic forwards. And he has some good traits. But the first part of that I listed was like forwards that can make reads, right? And there's just multiple drives where you could tell. There's even a shot that he made that I didn't like, where he basically like flicked it up at the rim, like off balance, completely smothered, and it somehow went in. Because for the most part, that was a shot that was not falling for him. And this isn't the only time there's been games where it's like, man, he's shooting a little bit too much. He came over in the trade and didn't play like heavy minutes, right? Played 9 minutes against Charlotte, 5 minutes against Miami. He has gotten more minutes recently with some of the injuries, but 7 for 20 against Minnesota, 5 for 13 against OKC. He's done nice things in those games, rebounding wise. He's made some nice passes, right? Hasn't turned over the ball much for how much he's handling it, right? Only 4 turnovers in the last 3 games, so there's good traits there. But man, he has to start making reads when he drives, because defenses are collapsing on him, and he's not making the right pass more often than not. And it's kind of frustrating because I feel like he is capable. I feel like he just tries too hard to make it happen himself and score himself. I don't want to call it selfish. I don't like calling guys selfish. I think it's just, over-aggression. But that's something for him to improve on. 30 points looks nice. His stat line, if you just look at points, rebounds, assists, looks nice in a game like this. But man, he has to stop just putting his head down, getting tunnel vision, and shooting no matter what. And then maybe he can be something, because going up against better defenses is going to be hard to be effective and help your team win games if you're not making reads and you're just putting your head down and just trying to ram your way to the rim and then flicking up some shots because you're not able to get there. Jeremy Grant has a problem with that, but Jeremy Grant is he's not as rough in that sense. He knocks down threes, he gets to the free throw line a little bit more, he gets to the rim a little bit more, finishes a little bit more, right? That's why Jeremy Grant's a really good player. So that's just something for Banton to improve on. It's something that kind of frustrated me a little bit during this game.
Yeah, to be fair to him, though, I mean, he hasn't been here that long. So those are things that I'd like to see him improve the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And we know, we've talked about this in the past, how Chauncey's told players like Jeremy Grant to keep shooting or take tough shots. Like, we don't know what is being told of him to do in these kind of games, whether they want him to be aggressive like that on offense. I mean, it wouldn't make sense with what they wanted to do this season with the ball movement and things like that. But I could certainly see on a night like tonight where we don't have Grant, Chauncey going to Banton before the game and saying, I need you to be aggressive and try to score a lot of points. We don't know what's being happening or what's being asked of him. Yeah, it's not, I don't know, because no matter who's playing, I mean, this team, I mean, they've shown flashes of sharing the ball, but there was like some graph today I saw that had like turnovers per pass and then like assist that led to points or whatever. And the Blazers were like worst in the turnovers on passing, and then they were worse in like getting assists on baskets and stuff too. So like there was their logo was down in the bottom right in the worst spot to be in, and everyone else's was way above them.
Yeah. That graph, I mean, every graph analytically, we don't look good.
Looks bad.
Unfortunately,
this year,
it's pretty rough. But I mean, like, Banton's thing is just, he's skilled. He's just been inefficient during his NBA career, right? He's shooting 48% from 2, 26% from 3. That's not going to get it done. That's a true shooting percentage of 48%. That's terrible, right? He's now 14 for 43 from 3. Like, his shot doesn't look bad. It looks smooth, right? And 14 for 43 now after this game on the season, that's 32.5%. That's not great, but that's better than what he's been during the course of his career, right? I feel like his inefficiency from 2, just watching him in Portland, isn't due to a lack of ability. It's due to some of the shots that he forces. Mm-hmm. And he's a capable passer, and he can see over the defense. It's like, if he just toned that down, I feel like he could be a guy that, I mean, he just has to make reads. If he could just consistently make the right read when he drives, I think he'd be a better finisher. I think he'd be a more efficient player from inside the arc because he wouldn't be forcing as many bad shots. And then if he's making kick-out passes and knocking down threes, like, you got yourself a really intriguing player that could be a rotation piece on a solid to good team. It's just, he has to get better at making reads when he drives. That plus 3-point consistency is the key for his game, because they started playing out on him. He actually turned into a floor spacer there in the first half because he hit 3 threes in a row. And there was a play where, like, Jabari Smith is just hugging him one pass away instead of stunting at the ball handler when the ball handler drove. I forget who it was. And, you know, it was just kind of interesting because Banton's defender normally will leave him one pass away to try and bother the drive. And then they'll just rotate out at Banton and live with the result because he's not statistically a good 3-point shooter. But once a guy hits 3 threes in a row, you got to respect it. So the 3-point ball, making reads off the dribble, if he can block those 2 things in, he's a very intriguing piece. But in a game like this, he hit the 3 ball. Cool. We need more sample to trust it. I don't really know exactly what he is as a shooter, if he's playing rotation minutes all season long. He only played 31 games last year and has only played 34 games this year, so there's not much sample there. But the driving thing definitely has to pick his spots a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know if he just doesn't have that right mentality IQ-wise, but anyone who can get his shot off like that could easily get his passing off like that as well. And it might have to be something that he has to change his mindset on how he attacks in there. But man, I just keep getting left wondering, like, if he just tried to look for the open man or like realize how much he can collapse the defense and pass over the top, how good he could probably be. But then I see a possession where he gets like isolated with Amen Thompson on him, and he like tells everyone to clear out and goes at him one-on-one and doesn't get anything, and Thompson shuts him down. And it's like sometimes I feel like he's not really the best at like IQ thinking of situation playmaking wise, and I think you have to be a little smarter basketball wise to do that. But you can definitely get a shot off. That doesn't take a ton of IQ to do when you're that size.
Yeah. And then I want to respond to a comment because there's other people that make this comment. There's a comment that says, I don't understand how you can trash Banton but endorse Ruper every chance you get. I'm not trashing Banton by giving constructive criticism. Okay. He needs to get better at making the right read. There's every player on this team could get better at something. That's something Banton has to get better at. And he goes 10 for 27. Like, that's not too great. But when it comes to like Ruper versus Banton, Banton's 5 years older. Okay? There's a difference between analyzing a raw 19-year-old rookie and somebody that's 24 and in the league for 3 years, right? Like, there's different standards for different players, okay? So, Banton right now is obviously better than Ruper. And Ruper's going to have growing pains. And part of the reason why I wanted to play Ruper was so he could get those growing pains out of the way and improve through some of the struggles that he'll inevitably have once he starts playing NBA basketball because he's never played NBA basketball before. There's a lot of context that goes into these conversations where you can't just say, oh, you guys are being a little harder on Banton than you are on Ruper, even though he had 30 points and Ruper made one shot tonight. Like, they're not comparable players in terms of where they're at in their careers, how old they are, where certain skills they have or don't have, their styles of play. Like, you can't just compare them like that and compare our analysis of one to the analysis of the other if you're not taking into account all the context that goes into the differences between those players and the standards that they're held to given where they're at in their career.
I don't understand how... I mean, like, Matt's been in here the last few streams. Like, we want Ruper to play because he's a raw 19-year-old rookie and we suck this season. We're not saying he's good or is for sure guaranteed to be good or whatever. We want him to get reps and stuff, so if he is ever going to be good, he has some experience that he can learn from heading into the offseason and knows what he needs to work on and get better at. And then next season, you can start evaluating whether he's working hard enough on those particular things. We know he's a hard worker in general, but there's a difference between working hard and actually showing in-game improvements on things that you need to improve. So I want him to get reps no matter how good he looks or bad he looks, just to have those experience and those reps to understand what it's like to play in the NBA. It has nothing to do with him being better or worse than anyone. I know Matt in particular was talking about how good Thibault was in previous streams and how he doesn't understand why we want to play Ruper over Thibault and that kind of stuff. And it's the same type of thing. We know what Thibault is. We know what we're going to get from him. We know next season what Thibault will be. And he can fluctuate a little bit depending on if he was shooting threes at a rate that was closer to the beginning of the season or more closer to his career average. That could make a difference. But for the most part, you know what you're going to get in an NBA game next year already if Matisse Thybulle is still on the team. Ryan Ruper, we do not know. He could flourish the rest of this year like Sharp broke out at the end of last year and maybe contribute and be a rotation player, or maybe next year he's not even a rotation player. Maybe he's still an into-the-bench guy that you're trying to develop. Like, we don't know what that's going to look like next year, and I'd rather get as much information on that as possible as we can. And so it has nothing to do with this player versus that player or whatever. It's just Ruper is a 19-year-old rookie that we want to see more of.
Yeah, exactly. And, once we get a larger sample size, there will be things that he inevitably struggles with, and I will point out those struggles with him too. just like I'm pointing out the struggles with Banton. That's not trashing a guy. Like, it's constructive stuff. Like, Banton could be a better player if he made the right read more consistently when he drove compared to forcing as many shots as he does. Like, that's stuff that the coaching staff should be saying to him. That's not trashing. That's not, you know what I mean? Like, and you can improve from struggle. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people, man, that just their mindset towards developing players is skewed and doesn't really make much sense to me, because I fully believe that if you play Ruper now, he'll struggle with some things, but he can learn from his struggles. It's a life thing too. You can learn from failure in life. You can learn from losses in sports. You can learn from struggles you go through as a person on a day-to-day basis, right? It's called self-improvement, and it's called learning from your mistakes. It's called, becoming more resilient if you deal with a tough situation, right? Learning how to deal with adversity. This isn't just a sports thing. This is a life thing too. And I feel like it's, the Ruper conversations in the past have been, is he ready or is he not ready to play NBA minutes and this and that? He's ready to play minutes to develop. He's not ready to contribute for a winning team, and probably won't be for another couple of years, but that's the good thing with him being 19 years old, right? The thing is pretty much every player on the floor outside of Anthony Simons is somebody you can question whether they would play for a contending team this year, right? Like, the Blazers are a rebuilding team with a lot of injuries. That's natural. So it's a different standard. It's Ruper's ready to play developmental minutes, and that's why he should get developmental minutes. That doesn't mean that he's not going to have games where he potentially looks awful. Today he played 22 minutes. He looked like he didn't want to shoot the ball, which, you know what? I'm actually okay with that. Being 19 years old, not like a super refined offensive player, he's not forcing things, he's not making mistakes. He did have 3 turnovers, gotta clean those up, but he gets the ball, he swings it quick, and he goes and screens away or goes and screens on the ball and just moves and just tries to play within the flow. I like that, I like that more than if a guy wasn't ready to shoot 12 times a game as a 19-year-old rookie and came in shooting 12 times a game and goes 2 for 12 because he's forcing a bunch of shots that he's not capable of making at an NBA level yet, right? So, Ruper, I like that Chauncey's playing him. Props to Chauncey for developing him. And Chauncey talked about how hard he works, and it seems like he's rewarding that hard work with Ruper near the end of the season when we're getting close to tank mode, or maybe already in tank mode right now. I like that Chauncey's doing that. I think that's smart of Chauncey to do, to reward Ruper apparently working his ass off all season long. Okay, and giving him developmental minutes that he needs. We've been critical of Chauncey all season long because of our disagreements with how he's handled some developmental things, but given Ruper minutes, I'm fully behind.
Yeah, for me tonight with Ruper, I don't know. It felt like he was a little bit shaky and hesitant every time he got the ball, and that's what led to the 3 turnovers. And that's, once again, okay, because you want him to get comfortable so he doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to actually play. And so, maybe next game he's not shaky. Maybe it was just, I don't know, I know last game was a home game, but, the previous game he had played in was on the road. And so you're not in front of your home crowd and all that kind of stuff. But, I don't know. I just want to see him. And he's got to not turn the ball over. We talk about this with, Chris and Jabari and Toumani and those guys. If you're not handling the ball very much, you can't have, 2 or 3 turnovers in a game. So he's got to limit those. But that's part of the learning curve, and I don't think he's going to be turnover prone once he figures things out. And that's the whole point of him playing, is to try and figure things out more.
Yep, 100%.
But I'm good.
Go ahead.
Man, Matt's giving me headaches, dude.
Oh man, I mean,
Did you see it?
oh, the Ruper has no potential. He looks
Yeah.
slow and uncoordinated, makes bad decisions. I mean, he's 19 and apparently grew an inch in the past year. Like, he's still getting used to his body because he's 19 and still growing, apparently. So, like, potential is a funny thing. Like, Anthony Simons wasn't doing anything his rookie season until the last game, right? And then he had that 37-point game, but he looks completely different now, and he's still only 24 years of age. So, players look a lot different between when they're 19 and 24. Chris Murray at 19 couldn't even get on the floor for a D1 team. He couldn't even get on the floor for Iowa, let alone play in the NBA. So have some patience with Ruper. Like, relax with him. He has a ton of upside. I don't think that's arguable. Whether he fulfills it or not is to be determined.
Well,
So.
I don't see how he looks slow. I think he looks pretty like quick and athletic for his size. He just doesn't have the game to back that up yet.
Yeah, I mean, like, your ball handling ability, if you're not a super strong ball handler and used to handling the ball against NBA-level defenders, you're going to play slower off the dribble than you're physically capable of, and that's because your skills and experience level aren't there. So that's where you give him a pass because he's 19. If he's 26, then, yeah, he's probably never figuring it out. But he's 19, that's where you can have some patience. And people need to have patience with Ruper. That's where it's a different standard when you're talking about, like, a 23, almost 24-year-old rookie in Chris Murray compared to a 19, almost 20-year-old rookie in Ruper, too, as well. Ruper has much more time to figure things out. Chris Murray is further ahead in his career naturally by being 4 years older.
And I'm not comparing Ruper to this player because I don't think he's anywhere close to him. But go back and watch Giannis' rookie year. He looked completely awkward and like he was going to have trouble handling the ball in the NBA, was very turnover prone, all that kind of stuff. Just looked like he was like completely outmatched in certain situations, and then figures out his body and how to play a little better and use his body to his advantage and improves his handles and things like that. And all of a sudden he's an MVP. And so I'm not saying Ruper's like that, but like even an MVP level player like Giannis looked clumsy and that kind of stuff for a good portion of his rookie year.
Yeah. Let's talk about Chris since we're on the topic of Chris. I mean, he's looked good driving the ball lately. I don't really know how he makes it work on some of his drives. He's methodical. 6 for 13 from the field. Or no, that's Duop Reath. 5 for 12 from the field for Chris Murray, Eric. 1 for 6 from 3. So he's 4 for 6 inside the arc. Has 7 assists, 11 rebounds, 12 points. Filled up the stat sheet. You like to see that. It's just a tale of two different things. It's him being solid everywhere, and on a team against another bad team, like, he can pop into a night where he's close to flirting with a triple-double. But on the other hand, the three-point shooting's still struggling. So I care more about the three-point shot than anything else with Chris Murray. It's nice to see him do some other things. If he can ever figure out that three-point shot, then he could be a, backup 4. But man, that shot has to get better because he had some really bad misses tonight.
Yeah. Well, if you just ignore the shooting, Chris is an example of someone using his body when he doesn't have athleticism to create stuff. And going back to Banton, that's what I want to see more of, is that kind of, I feel like Banton could be a little methodical like Chris is being with his size. And good game. But here's also what I think about when we're talking about Ruper, we're talking about Chris Murray, the ages and all that kind of stuff. And I know people can get better. Dame, for example, got better every year up until pretty much this year, right? Like improved something and got a little better. Um, but with Chris, his skill set is pretty much there in my mind. It's just if he can develop a 3-point shot, like you said, it raises his playability a little bit. But I don't see what he can add to his game really outside of his shooting because he's a solid defender. He's a solid rebounder. He's showing an ability to put the ball on the floor a little bit. He can pass a little bit. High basketball IQ, all that kind of stuff. So I think all those are going to be the same moving forward. So like his age isn't really relevant, I guess, but him being as old as he is, I feel like he's pretty much those things are always going to be there, and I don't think they're going to get better or worse.
Yeah.
So he's either going to develop a 3-point shot or he's not. And that's not necessarily something that's going to happen just because he plays. Like Ruper, we want to see get better by playing. I think Chris is either going to lock in that 3-point shot or he's not. And that'll be the main thing. But like I see all the rest of his game as things that are always going to be solid, and the ceiling of it's going to be limited based on maybe a lack of athleticism or whatever. But that isn't necessarily a knock because he does a lot of things decently. It's just I don't see like a high end potential of any of those things to get a whole lot better than they already are. And that's one of the disappointing things about drafting someone that's that older.
Yeah. You said it all perfectly. I mean, I wouldn't reword anything. I 100% agree with everything you just said. It's just the thing that is discouraging me right now, Eric, his shot seems to be getting worse. Since the All-Star break, he is 5 for 31 from 3.
Yeah.
After this game. That's 16%. Before the All-Star break, he was 32%. Okay, he was 19 for 59. So 19 for 59 before, 5 for 31 after. And it doesn't seem like he's, I don't know, it doesn't seem like he's getting more comfortable. It doesn't seem like he necessarily has a confidence issue. He misses like all over the place too.
Yeah. Didn't he shoot the first 2 threes of the game? And one was like off the backboard, didn't
like
anything.
One was to the right, he'll miss to the left, he'll miss short. Like I'm trying to pay attention to like his hand when he follows through. I don't really know what the issue is. It just seems like the ball doesn't come out of his hand consistent. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he has to fix that. Like he has to figure out how to become a shooter. I mean, just plain and simple. We've talked about that constantly, but it's just baffling to me why he's struggling so bad and why he's getting worse. You know, it is a small enough sample that you can say, oh, it's just, variation. But, man, I would have felt better if he shot this poorly to start the season and then got better compared to being a below-average 3-point shooter before the All-Star break and getting even worse.
Whole game.
Yeah. So the weird part is Toumani's the same age, right, rookie? Or close enough to the same age. But like I feel like he has way more high-end upside that he can still improve on, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, he's bigger and more athletic.
And he also has potential lockdown defensive ability, game-changing defensive length and things like that. So yeah, it's I don't know. But Toumani's also got to hit the 3, but he's been shooting a little bit more consistently. I don't know. I feel like we have part of the problem is we have better players than Chris at the roles we need Chris to eventually be in. and we already have those guys in Toumani and Jabari. So I really don't know how that all fits in moving forward. And I still feel like we need a forward that's better than all three of those guys in the starting lineup. So I don't know if you have to decide to move on from one or two of the three eventually, but I do think we need someone better than any of the three of them. And I do think Toumani has the most or the best chance of the three to fit in on a winning team as a role player. But yeah, I don't know how all three of them work out on the same team.
Yeah. There's going to be decisions that need to be made in the next 2 to 3 years in terms of which one of those guys to keep, which of those guys to move on from. They're not all going to be here in 3 years. Like, it's going to be interesting to see who wins out there. I also, just to circle back to Banton, I feel like he'll be on the team next year. I feel like the team is seeing enough to be intrigued, but, you know, it's just not efficient, as we stated. But you insert him into that mix, and you just got a lot of mediocre role player upside forwards, it feels like. Or guard forwards, you know, 6'8", 6'9" guys. And
that can't shoot.
Yeah, that struggle to shoot the three ball. Like, if Ruper's early season shooting is a mirage and you fit him into, like, okay, he's a below average 3-point shooter, right? Wing / forward. I mean, him, Toumani, Jabari, Chris, Banton, like, that's a third of your team already. And you, Thibault, throw Thibault in there too if you're talking about a wing / forward. That's 6 out of your 15 players. That's almost half your roster. Okay? It's a little bit too much. So I wouldn't mind them moving on from anyone but Toumani or Ruper this offseason. Obviously, you're not going to cut Chris Murray. It makes no sense to cut him. But, like, if a team wants a little extra value in a trade and is intrigued by Chris Murray, and it's a trade that makes sense for the Blazers, I'm willing to throw him in. Because you have a lot of players that play similar positions, have similar strengths and weaknesses. You can move on from one or two of them. And then clear a spot for maybe a high upside boomer bust forward player that the Blazers could draft with the Golden State Warriors pick, right? I feel like we need a little bit more upside at forward positions. And right now, obviously, you got to find role players. So that's where I think one or two of these guys will be here long term as a good role player, but you got to find some sort of upside. And I'd be willing to sacrifice a few of these wing / forwards on the team right now in order to get that upside if possible.
Well, so while you were saying that, I just figured out the math. If we keep Banton on the roster, that gives us, well, if we kept both first-round picks, well, this is without trades. Of course, if we traded 2 for 1 or threw in Chris with a Brogdon trade or whatever, that changes the equation. But if we just kept everyone and did our 2 draft picks, that's 16 guys. And that doesn't include our 2 second-round picks or free agency or adding anyone else. That's 16 guys, and we'd be $8,733,673 over the tax.
Yeah. Yeah, there should be a decent level of roster turnover this offseason. Because of the player count, because of the financials, because of the makeup of the roster as a whole. Like, there should at least be 5-6 guys that are on the roster now that aren't on the roster opening night next season. I have a gut feeling it might be less than that, though, Eric.
Well, what about this? I mean, it's still shaping up to ditch Robert Williams or Matisse Thybulle, and that be your one move, and then you're under the tax barely, and then you have your 15 roster spots.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's why I have a gut feeling it might just be a very tame offseason where you use those 2 picks, maybe trade the 34th pick for like 2 future seconds, and then draft somebody with the 41st pick or whatever Atlanta's second round pick ends up becoming, and then signing that guy to a 2-way, like not even on a main roster contract because you already got 15 players on the roster. You're not counting, like Moses Brown doesn't count in that, right?
Yeah, Moses Brown's gone. He's a free agent.
Yeah.
That's not, yeah, anyone that's a free agent. So, yeah, I mean, I can list them off. It's
just list off the end of the roster because we kind of know who the main players are.
Well, Toumani and Jabari both have
yeah
non-guaranteed contracts, but
yeah, but
I mean, Jabari makes $2 million and
Jabari.
Toumani 1.89. So, like, I don't know why you would cut them.
Yeah, but I don't know why they cut Trent Watford either.
Right.
But he would have been another player that fits into this, you know.
I mean, so you got Ayton, Grant, Simons, Brogdon, Robert Williams, Batiste, Scoot, Shaden. That's your core 8.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the other ones. So you got Chris, Jabari, Toumani, Ryan, Duop, Delano, and then your 2 draft picks.
Yeah,
that's another 8. So that's 16.
Yeah.
So that's once again not so. I know Portland's not a free agent destination, but that means like no signing.
No signing for the second year in a row.
Yeah, like nothing in free agency.
Like you're not even making use of a potential mid-level exception where you could maybe sign somebody to a mid-level and then maybe they could be somebody you could flip at the deadline for some sort of draft assets that otherwise you wouldn't have gotten if you did nothing in free agency, right? So it's even though it's not a destination, the Blazers are still capable of using a mid-level exception if they had the financial flexibility to do so. Unfortunately, they have put themselves in a position where even if they dump a Matisse Thybulle or Robert Williams III, they do not have the financial flexibility to use a mid-level exception like that. So it's just very fascinating the position they put themselves in with this roster makeup, and if there's they got to have some level of roster turnover this offseason for sure.
Yeah, I mean the only thing I can think of is if they're banking on getting extremely lucky with a team like Philly with cap space. I don't know how you can plan for that though.
Because that's after the draft. That's
you could still get extremely lucky and just have them give up a future pick or something and take Brogdon for nothing in return, and then you're fine.
But you're still not signing anybody because that would take them striking out on multiple players and multiple players signing elsewhere, and that means the free agent market would dry up before we know that we have the ability to use a mid-level exception. So,
and this is why, like for years, when we were trying to win, if you want to call it that, we were up against the tax, so we couldn't sign anyone. Like we had multiple injuries, and we had like these trade exceptions, and we had disabled player exceptions, like we had this year, that we can't use because it put us over the tax. So, like last year, we mentioned this leading up to the trade deadline, and then pointed out again after the Josh Hart trade happened. If we made that trade a couple days earlier, we could have just absorbed Cam Reddish's contract for a second round pick and still gotten something else for Josh Hart if that's the player you wanted. And then, like, obviously they didn't care about Cam Reddish because they let him go. But the Trendon Watford situation is a little different because the Blazers were still trying to be in that situation where they were just under the tax. This situation this summer, even if you let Toumani and Jabari walk, that's still less than $4 million. So you're still over $4 million over the tax, even with letting both of those guys go. So to me, they have to have some sort of plan to duck a significant salary for nothing in return. I don't see how else you can do it.
Yep, agree. Let's rattle off just kind of the rest of the players we want to talk about here in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Then I'm going to go for about 5 minutes. Then we'll do Tankathon. That's what we're going to do. Duop Reath, 16 points, got hot from 3 in the first half. 6 for 13, 4 for 6 from 3, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 personal fouls. I saw this talked about during the game in our group chat, but yeah, his rebounding is really rough. Like, he can score, he can make a play off the dribble, he can make a basic read and a basic pass. That's really nice to have in a center, especially a backup center, especially somebody making as little as Duop Reath makes on the roster, right? And good third string center type stuff that can slide into a backup spot. Rebounding, especially against starting caliber centers, is rough for him.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you had a 4 that could rebound. Right?
Yeah. And that's the dude. When I watch him play, I'm like, he would be perfect next to Josh Hart. Josh Hart could help him rebound. Josh Hart's playmaking, especially in transition, Reath could feast off that.
Yeah, he had that nice transition kickback 3.
Yeah, it's like Josh Hart, at a small forward position, struggles with the 3-point shot, doesn't shoot much, but you got a center that can shoot, so you can maybe put 4 shooters on the floor. And that makes Josh Hart's lack of shooting less negative, if that makes sense, because you still have enough floor spacing. Like, Reath and Hart would have been really good pairing, honestly. Just kind of a random thought there.
Maybe New York will take Reath this summer.
Maybe. I mean, yeah. I think teams could be interested in Duop Reath in a trade. If the Blazers plan on bringing back Robert Williams III and or draft a big man prospect, Alex Sarr, who can play the 4-5, or Klingon, Missy, whoever it might be, Deron Holmes, who is kind of a 4-5, then it makes sense to maybe explore what's out there for Duop Reath and see how interested a team is in him, because he is an offensive weapon at the center spot that is not easy to find across the league for a $2 million guy that you don't have to start.
Yeah.
He has his weaknesses, which is why he wouldn't start for another team, but teams in need of a backup center, especially if they strike out in free agency, maybe, that could be the time when you could maybe get some value back for Duop Reath, and it might make sense, too, if you have other bigs.
Yeah, I just imagine him on a team that had decent point of attack defense, but struggled a little bit on spacing on offense. He'd be really nice.
Yeah. And the Knicks do have Precious Achiuwa, but Achiuwa's kind of a 4-5. I actually think Achiuwa and Reath could coexist next to each other.
Is Achiuwa a free agent?
I don't know what his situation is.
Let me look that up. I feel like this is his 4th year, but I might be wrong. Yep, he could be a restricted free agent.
Yeah.
Right now, his qualifying offer is 6.275.
It's fun watching him shoot the ball. It's fun watching him play offense, and he's kind of a fan favorite now, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to him. Toumani, 1 for 2 from 3. He had been shooting the 3-ball well, and then got sick, so missed some games. But comes back, Eric. Comes back hitting threes. He was 3 for 4 in his last game. That was the OT game against Memphis. 1 for 2 tonight. He's like 46% from 3 in his last 20 games or so. Had some impressive defensive moments tonight. I just love that he's hitting the 3-point shot. Like, he's the guy who's improved shooting the 3-ball after the All-Star break. It wasn't Chris Murray, it was Toumani Camara. And his 3-point percentage up above 32% now, which, still isn't great, but it's climbing towards average, which for a defensive player rookie, like, I'm happy with that.
Yep. Yeah, Toumani's been pretty solid. I still worry about the small sample size of the 3-pointers, but I'd rather it be this way than the way Chris and Jabari shot it, right? But yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me with small sample size because you look at Thibault, Josh Hart for a while, like going into from his first few months with the Blazers to the second season and all that kind of stuff. So Nasir Little had some fluctuations with his 3-point shooting. So I hope this is a good sign for Toumani because I think his form and everything is decent. I think he could become a good 3-point shooter if he works hard enough at it. And he does have the ability to put the ball on the floor and get to the basket if they close out on him hard. So I think if he did get respected as a 3-point shooter, that would bode well for his game as he continues to get better around the rim finishing. But yeah, it's encouraging to see him. I'm not going to get too up or down on a small sample size until he is consistently doing it. But definitely a good sign.
Yeah, and then the final guy I want to talk about, Ant. 7 for 14, 4 for 7 from 3, 5 for 7 from the free throw line, 23 points on those 14 field goal attempts. Efficient night for him. He has been shooting the 3-ball well lately. Had 3 really good performances before this. I think this was a solid performance for Anthony's standards, right? Scoring the ball pretty efficiently, hitting some threes, getting to the line. 6 turnovers is the one is the one issue there. 6 turnovers on only 3 assists, not great. He's been passing the ball really well, so hopefully he continues to do that in future games. Tonight was just a little rough, but Houston's a long, young, quick, athletic team, and I think that bothered Ant, and teams are still continuing to just completely load up on him, and he's the guy to take away, and he's the guy that is the center focus of the game plan defensively for other teams, and that's why you're going to have nights like this, I think.
I mean, especially since Jeremy didn't play, Houston could care less, or couldn't care less about other players scoring. That's why Banton got 27 shots. They were perfectly willing to live with Delano Banton shooting as many times as he wanted to. And yeah, they totally keyed on him. Their whole game plan was to stop him. But he didn't handle it well tonight. The 6 turnovers, you can't turn the ball over that many times. Several of them were pretty bad ones too, like bad cross-court passes or getting the ball stripped. So you just got to take better care of the ball.
Yeah, there was a couple passes where he just wasn't reading the defender, like already sprinting towards the passing lane when he was releasing the ball. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be able to read that defender guarding the guy that you're passing the ball to before you make that pass, because some guys will start to anticipate it, and you got to be able to notice that. And Anthony is definitely capable and has done that. There's just sometimes you get a little sped up given the attention, and then you're not making that read. And then they're sprinted through the passing lane, intercepting a pass and going the other way. That's how the poster dunk from Jalen Green happened. So,
well, yeah, I guess none of this matters since he's dead.
Or I think that was... Wait, what?
R.I.P. Anthony.
What?
Jalen Green ended him tonight, didn't he?
Oh, I literally wasn't putting 2 and 2 together. Yeah, well, rest in peace. But wasn't that an Ant turnover?
I think
Maybe
so,
I'm wrong.
That was one of the
It was either an Ant turnover or an Ant missed shot.
I think it was an Ant. He threw it right to Jalen Green across court, yeah.
That's what I thought. I second-guessed myself for no reason. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Ant. And yeah, I'm gonna go for about 5 minutes. Eric, just answer chat questions, I guess. I don't know. You do a good job when you solo, so I'll be back in about 5. We'll do Tankathon when we're back. In the meantime, leave a like on the stream. We're at 51 likes. Let's get the stream to 100 likes. Appreciate everybody voting yes in the poll and doing their part. It's the easiest way to support the channel. And with that, I'll be back.
What's up, everyone? Hope you're enjoying your Friday nights. Double E wants SAR Connect, Tyler Smith, and Edie. You want 3 bigs and a shooter. Okay. Do I have whiskey in that drink? Nope, just water. I'm once again sick. Been sick like 5 times in the past couple months. I don't know what it is lately. She should probably take a cough drop so I don't Aeromancer, of course, has whiskey in his drink because he's always drunk, right, Aeromancer? Sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm fine. It's just, man, I feel like I get better for like 3 days and I get sick again every time lately. Of course, I was fine like all stream, and then as soon as Tori leaves, I can't stop coughing. I feel like between work and kids in school, and my wife works at an ER, so I feel like I get like everything. Later, Spencer. Yeah, if Tori's gonna ask how I did, says Aeromancer, and I'm just gonna say I coughed a bunch. What's up, Garben? I just put a cough drop in, but yeah, like I said, I was fine all stream, and then like I don't know, I was about to start a coughing fit, and then Tori's like, I'm gonna leave you alone for 5 minutes. Sorry. I know this is horrible, YouTube. What do you guys think about the game? Yeah, I have a Ricola. 3 cola. Yeah, Amen Thompson looked great. He's I mean, he's already a really good defender. And yeah, if he's another one of those guys, if he could ever figure out a shot, he could be like a top 20 player in the league, maybe. But it's going to be interesting to see how him and his brother figure things out offensively. I mean, he's been pretty good offensively despite not being able to shoot. But hi, Mom. Disappointing. We should have won. Bummer, she says. TC Sports Legend is asking Tori for him to evaluate why you wouldn't want Jaime over Scoot. I'll answer the question. I'm not Tori, but I know. I'm just giving you crap. So I believe that the Blazers had already decided to move on from Dame at the draft. That's why they take Scoot. That's why they don't trade any of their picks. And with that in mind, I think you always have to go for the higher potential, higher ceiling. Now, Jaime could end up being that, but he's much better suited on a team that he ended up with the Heat, or a team that was ready to have him contribute to winning right away. I don't think he would be as good on a bad team, just playing a roller or scoring or whatever on a bad team. So I don't know. I don't really think. Much like I was talking about, kind of with Chris. I don't know if Jaime is ever going to be much better than he is right now. Like, he's been really good this year, and that's a good player in the NBA. But I mean, I'd always take a chance on a potential star than a player who is really good but might not have the type of ceiling. Jason Hawley, what's up? You're drunk, I guess. But yeah, I still think See, to me, if you're going to keep the pick, I still think Scoot, was the right pick, and that still should play out. But for me, I mean, you guys know this that have been watching for a while. I would have rolled with the Anthony and Sharp backcourt, even if I was trading Dame, and I would have traded the third pick anyway. So that was what I would do, because I think Ant and Sharp would have been a really good backcourt, and then you don't have to worry about how the three of them fit, and you would have gotten a haul, I think, from a team like New Orleans. I think you could have gotten Trey Murphy and multiple first-round picks, and then you'd have even more of a – we'd be like the Thunder right now. Yeah, that's just me. I mean, I understand why we didn't trade it or whatever, so I'm not like mad or saying that was a mistake or anything. I just really believed in Anthony and Sharp playing together. Yeah, Simon, Sharp, Murphy, Sarr. You still have Grant technically. Then you're starting to really build something, I think. But hopefully, the Scoot Ant Sharp thing can work itself out. Garvin says, so contractually, is Banton really not going to be on the team? Well, I mean, the Blazers have an option. It's partially guaranteed. We have to pay him like a little over $200,000 if he goes away and is cut. If we keep him, it's a little over $2 million. So I don't know. It's going to depend on what they do to cut salary and other moves. Austin says, do you think Sharp could be six-man for the next 4 to 5 years with Ant and Scoot starting? Could he? Yes. Should he be, or is it a good thing if he is? I still think if all three are on the team, the best thing we can hope for is that they all three start and are all good together. Then we have the right 4 and 5 that match up or that make up for their weaknesses. And so, yeah, I think they all need to be able to play together and start together if things are going to work out. If one of them's a bench player, ultimately, I don't see how. I mean, it could work, I guess, if it's like a rare outlier like the Manu Ginobili situation in San Antonio where he's willing to come off the bench. But yeah, I don't know. I think we need all three of them to go. Small member for 38 months message says, I see you lurking, like the stream. Yeah, like the stream, everyone. I think Tori might be back. Aramancer says, we wouldn't be asking that question if we moved off Brogdon. And that is something that I think we're going to look back, and even if you only got a second or two for Malcolm Brogdon and expiring, I think it might have been worth it just to see a situation where the Blazers would then be, instead of $8 million, you're talking about roughly 14 to 15 million under the tax, And then you talk about having a full mid-level exception to use and all that kind of stuff. Like we could really attack free agency. We'd have trade options. We'd still have a trade exception we could use. All that kind of stuff. So I think we're just going to be limiting stuff. And that's why I and Tori always get upset when we go through these trade deadlines and things like that, because instead of opening up options and being flexible and stuff like Joe tried to say he would be doing moving forward, it's like everything he does or doesn't do makes it that much harder to pull off the next one. And like I've said many times, he can still pull off that next move, but it's the degree of difficulty is just going to be really hard because, yeah, you could maybe say, oh, well, look in the past, look how easy it is to clear that much money. But you still have to give away a good player in this situation because we know the players you have to give up. And at minimum, it's Robert Williams or Matisse Thybulle have to go for nothing in return just to get barely under the cap. And so, I mean, I just don't see how setting up your summer to be like that. And the last summer, I felt like they set it up to be like, we have to trade Anthony if we're keeping Dave, or there's no one else to move for like a good player. So I just feel like he lacks the vision to have the contracts or the cap structure to set up his off seasons in the future. And then it also doesn't make sense that with Dame, we would so meticulously do things to stay under the cap like a year out. So like this last trade deadline, not only would we have been looking at this year's tax, but we were looking at how all the roster and contracts set up for next year. And they would purposely not take like a James Wiseman's contract back just so they wouldn't have to worry about that in the next year. And then all of a sudden we're rebuilding and that doesn't happen anymore. Like we don't care about the salary or being in the tax next year. It makes no sense. And it doesn't feel like, to me, that is the like movements of a team that knows what the F they're doing. It seems like a team that is lost and doesn't have a direction and is constantly doing things, but not doing things to come to an ultimate goal. Yeah, so I mean, I don't really know what they have going on or up their sleeve, or if they're just going to pray that something happens. But I mean, this is part of the problem. You have an owner who has never really been into sports or owned anything prior to being the owner of the Blazers by inheriting it. And then you have a president has like very little experience and has never been a president of a sports team before. You have a GM that has no experience as a GM. You have a first-time head coach. So they can hire as many good people around them as possible, but at the end of the day, those four main people are the people making all the final decisions. And this is what happens. Your roster is all weird. Your TV contract sucks. Your all this kind of stuff. Fans aren't watching. So Yeah, I just think it's accumulation of all those people at the same time, not really knowing what they're doing. Yeah, JP Savvy, I think they do have one of the worst, if not the worst, combination of everything. Hopefully we can capture the flag. Yeah, but we're not even taking in the right year. And that's what I'm worried about, Joey, is that next year we're going to next year we're going to be average like the Rockets are this year. And so next year we're going to be like a little below 500. We're going to ruin any chance of getting Cooper Flag or Ace Bailey or I don't even know how to pronounce his name, Kamak or whatever. That 7-2 center that's going to Duke to play with Flag. So yeah, I feel like we're going to just feel like we're going to be just good enough to ruin a chance of that. And I feel like we're taking in the wrong year. Or we should have a long-term plan to tank again, but because of the ratings and all that stuff, they're worried about fans and all that kind of stuff. I think the problem is they're not going to be willing to stomach. I mean, they won't even say that this is a rebuild. They're afraid to even use that word. It's just so sad. Like everyone knows what it is. I mean, we're not dumb, but they treat their fans like they are, you know. And that's part of my problem. It's like you've lied so many times already to us. Like, just freaking be honest with us about what this is. Hi, Tori.
Hello, I came back.
I've been dying.
You're dying?
I had a coughing fit as soon as you left.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I forgot.
No, it's all good.
You do a good job of hiding it when we're on together that I forget you're even dealing with that.
Well, like when you're talking, I can just mute my mic and cough, you know. But like when I'm the only one here, I'm like trying to.
I've had a couple of solo streams before. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. I know the feeling. But appreciate that. Anyway, I didn't want to interrupt you talking about liars. I don't know what the conversation was, not gonna lie.
Oh no, I was just talking about how I'm worried about, because someone said hopefully capture the flag or whatever, but this team has inexperienced owner, inexperienced president, inexperienced GM, inexperienced coach, and doesn't seem to have a plan. It seemed like they don't want to be bad next year. So I think if they're really building this right and we're going to be fine with being bad and taking that step back, or that they're not willing to do according to Cronin, like I think I'd be a lot more excited about the long-term possibilities of adding another high draft pick next year maybe and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I just feel like they're going to mess that up too.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is Scoot and Sharper 19 and 20, so if they like get to a point where they're making playoff series, right, and they're not like getting over the hump the way they feel like they could, it still could be early enough to like fire Cronin, fire Chauncey, like bring in a new GM and still have time to build the right team under a different GM. So that's like my little shred of hope with that. Oh, Erica's gone. Look at that hair, though. See, chat, he's not bald. Look at that. Look at that wig. Look at that wig he has on. Sometimes I don't have your camera up, so you leave and I don't know, and then I just sit here awkwardly because
I decided to
talk.
blow my nose and try to figure out this cough thing. But
How long have you been dealing with that?
I think this is like the 5th time I've gotten really sick since the beginning of the year. So,
my condolences.
Like I said, when you were gone, I think it's just a combination of my wife working in the ER, my kids being in school and bringing home all their germs, and then my job. I'm like, in stores around people all day, so just a bad combination. Like I feel like my coworkers and I keep passing stuff back and forth.
Not good. Don't pass germs. Do not pass germs. Instead, hit the like button. Man, we got 78 votes on this poll and only 67 likes. That hurts my soul. Which I guess we'll just ignore it and move on to Tankathon. Nothing else I can do. Anyway. Yes, I'm guilt-tripping chat into liking the stream. Alrighty. Eric, Tankathon. Golden State pick is back up to 13, and actually I realized just like 30 seconds ago that we've talked about their pick, and we've said, like, yeah, it's very low chance it moves all the way up to 12, right? But it's actually a better chance than we realize, I think, because I haven't really thought it through. If Golden State, like, let's say these are the standings at the end of the season, right? And Golden State doesn't play their way into the playoffs, okay? Atlanta or Chicago is the 9-10 playing game. One of those teams is going to win and then play the loser of the 7-8 playing game. And then if either Atlanta or Chicago wins that and plays their way into the playoffs, knocking out either, Indiana or Philadelphia, then Golden State's pick gets bumped up to 12, technically. So there is a legitimate chance that it could be 12. It would just take the 8 versus 9, the 9 seed winning the 8 versus 9 playing game to play their way into the 8 seed, essentially. So it is a legitimate chance, just given the whole play-in setup. But, I mean, regardless, 12, 13, not sure it makes too much of a difference. Obviously, it depends on who would actually get drafted at 12. But it's nice to see Golden State off that 14th slot. Nice to see them move up because they lost to the Bulls, man. God, picks is so brutal for me lately, Eric. I'm so screwed.
The Lakers move a half game ahead of them because they beat Dame.
Yeah.
D'Angelo Russell.
Dame shot. Yeah, D'Lo.
No, Spencer did what he did.
Oh, was it? Didn't we? Somebody said Christian.
That was Dinwiddie.
Best defensive play of his career, maybe.
Yeah,
I watched the end of that game right before the stream, but yeah, I mean, rooting for the Bucks, of course, because of Dame, but it is good seeing the Lakers win. I mean, 13th versus 14th, it only matters for, like, who's at home for the 9-10 playing game, right? Because right now, the Lakers, since they passed Golden State, they'd be at home for the 9-10 playing game. Does that really make much of a difference? You're going to have probably a bit of a split arena in either location. So I'm not sure it really makes much of a difference between 13 and 14 right now. But Chicago beat them. And, dude, Chicago on Thursday, I said that game seems like a trap game for Golden State because the night before they had blew out the Milwaukee Bucks. And the Warriors were 8-point favorites. I was like, that might be a trap game. And I still took the Warriors. And then the Bulls just outright beat them.
Should have taken the Bulls.
Should have, man. I'm just slumping. I just can't get it right. I'm starting to second guess myself and starting to actually pick the opposite of what I'm thinking because what I think doesn't really happen. And now I'm just, stuck in my own head and I'm just washed at picks against the spread, unfortunately. So I'm actually not even in second anymore. It's Crushables and chat is still in first. So congratulations to chat. Anyway. You know what else sucks? Other than your cough.
Yeah.
Charlotte played Washington today. And if you notice, Washington has a winning streak of 1. They broke their, 16-game losing streak because they beat Charlotte. So, that was a game that would have been really nice for Charlotte to win because we're obviously trying to catch up. Anyway, we'll simulate this thing. Scroll from the bottom. Do our thing. At 14, New Orleans via the Lakers. At 13, Portland via Golden State. At 12, Chicago. At 11, Atlanta. At 10 is OKC via Houston. At 9 is Utah. At 8 is Houston via Brooklyn. At 7 is Memphis moving down one spot. So Toronto, I think for like the third or fourth postgame stream in a row, moves into the top 4. Which means Portland is supposed to be at 6. And at 6 is your Portland Trailblazers. At 5 is the Detroit Pistons, because they always get screwed. 4th is Washington. 3rd is Charlotte. 2nd is Toronto, and that means San Antonio gets the first overall pick. Despite losing the pick they were owed by Toronto, they still luck out. Yeah. Sarr and Wemby. Dude, I don't know. Defensively, for them, that would be phenomenal. I still have a feeling they go Toppich there, and I would laugh my ass off.
Yeah.
And then Toronto goes like freaking Cody Williams, and then Charlotte goes Reese Shea, and then Washington goes, they need a point guard, they go Dillingham, and then Detroit goes, they need a shooter, so they go Reed Shepherd, and then we get Sarr at 6.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, and we have to pay him a little bit less, so Jody's happy.
Yeah.
Any prospects you've watched recently that you want to talk about? Obviously, tomorrow's post-game show being on a Saturday, we'll have a lot of games tomorrow that we can talk about, but is there any that have caught your eye recently?
Not really since the last time we spoke.
Got you.
All right. How about you?
No, not really. I haven't watched any college basketball since Saturday. So, but conference tournaments are coming up. Saturday, okay, tomorrow there's a ton of great games. Maybe I just pull up ESPN here. Let's just run through some of these games that will be good scouting opportunities. Tomorrow, these are just ranked top 25 games. 9 a.m. you got Alabama, Arkansas. There's a lot of Trevon Brazil fans in chat. So
man, I just don't see it with him.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's one of those guys that's like, I think he's hyped because of his size and length and stuff, but actual production on court, I don't see it.
Yeah. Iowa State also plays the ranked 6th in the country, projected 2 seed. Momcilovic is like a fringe draft pick. I haven't watched a single Iowa State game this year, Eric, not gonna lie. They came out of nowhere. And now we're in, now we're ranked 6. But Creighton Villanova, Creighton has Shireman, has Trey Alexander, both projected 2nd-round picks right now. That's on Fox, so should be easily viewable. South Carolina, Mississippi State, no prospects there, but that's just a good SEC matchup. South Florida could be a March Madness sleeper. But then 1 p.m., you got Houston, number 1 team in the country, versus Kansas. Kansas, of course, has Johnny Furphy, which could be a Blazers draft pick with that Warriors pick, depending on where that is. But the game of the day, in my opinion, Eric. Okay, maybe it's not the game of the day. There's some phenomenal games tomorrow. Tennessee hosting Kentucky.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Don't brush past my lock of the year.
What's that?
South Florida is going to make a deep run in the tourney.
Ooh.
You said they could. They will.
I mean, it depends on who they match up against.
No, they're going to ruin someone's season.
I'm looking forward to your bracket. I'm looking forward to it. South Florida.
They're so good.
16-1 in the American is pretty damn good, yeah. Pretty legitimate. And, Florida Atlantic was the sleeper last year. It could be another obscure Florida school.
I watched them play Florida Atlantic, and they just demolished them. Florida Atlantic had no clue what hit them, man. It was impressive.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about Florida Atlantic. I feel like they are a first-round exit after their run last year.
Yeah.
I feel like, Wichita State went on that Final Four run as a 9 seed, and then the next year was a 1 seed and lost in the second round to Kentucky, right? That was when they were undefeated going into the tournament and then lose to Kentucky. That Kentucky team ended up making the Final Four as an 8 seed. But, yeah, we'll see what happens with Florida Atlantic. But, yeah, Houston, Kansas, great game there. 1 p.m., you got 2 great games to watch tomorrow. Tennessee hosting Kentucky. That's Dalton Connect versus Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepherd and DJ Wagner and Zvonimir Ivisic and Aaron Bradshaw and Antonio Reeves. Like, Kentucky has so much NBA talent on their team. They just don't play any defense. This is a game that could be like borderline hundreds, which is really high for college. So this should be an absolute shootout, and this should be a lot of fun. Tennessee beat Kentucky on the road earlier this year. Tennessee is a projected 1 seed right now. 2 p.m. Marquette. You got Tyler Kolek. You got Osoi Gadaro. 2 late first, early second round prospects. 3 p.m. You got Baylor. So that's Jacoby Walter and Yi Missy. And then 3:30. You got the good old rivalry, Duke, North Carolina. So Duke right now has more NBA caliber prospects with Filipowski, Tyrese Proctor. We'll see if he enters the draft this year. But Duke, North Carolina, always a lot of fun. UConn, Providence. Providence has Devin Carter, which is a recommended watch. I think he'll go in the first round. UConn, of course, has Stephon Castle, Donovan Clingan, 2 first-round prospects. So if you want to get in on scouting, tomorrow is your day to start if you haven't started yet. If you want to watch some prospects, phenomenal. March, college basketball. Big East is always a ton of fun to watch. This game should hopefully be fun. If it's close, it's at Providence. UConn's been dominant. Of course, they won last year. And then you got a couple other good matchups. But Arizona, USC. So Isaiah Collier, USC playing at home. Bronny James taking on Arizona. Pele Larson, I've seen get some late first love. I think it was Hoop Intellect had him projected late first, early second on his big board. I haven't paid enough attention to him to actually have a opinion on him. So that, of course, is tipping off at the same time as the Blazer game, though. So yeah. I have it on in the background. Is there any other games I'm missing that maybe aren't top 25 teams there?
I don't know. I'm not looking at it, but Arizona also has a guard, Lewis, that a freshman guard that's been rising up boards.
What's his first name?
I'm blanking on his first name. His last name is Lewis.
Yeah, I'm blanking too.
And then their sophomore point guard is also been on a lot of draft boards.
Yeah.
Why am I blanking on his name too?
Doesn't his last name start with a B? I'm blanking. We're both blanking over
here. KJ Lewis is the guy.
KJ Lewis, okay.
Kylan Boswell.
Boswell, yeah. Who does AJ Mitchell play for? UC Santa Barbara, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So 7 p.m. That's on ESPN Plus, so harder to watch. But there's probably other ways you can watch it that I won't recommend on air. But UC Santa Barbara, AJ Mitchell, intriguing guard. So lots of scouting opportunities tomorrow. Oregon plays at 4 on Pac-12. So KJ Evans, Jackson Shellstad might be a late second if he enters the draft. I think he'll stay though. Wake Forest and Clemson. PJ Hall is a projected second-round pick. Wake Forest has Hunter Salas, who I think will end up going in the first round. So that's 2 NBA prospects, even though neither of these teams are ranked. Yeah, man. I'm excited for tomorrow, bro. I love this stuff. I love this stuff this time of year. Saturdays when you got matchups like these.
Yep, and then we got conference tournaments starting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then once conference tournaments start, I mean, you'll have really big matchups on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Small conference championship games are always a ton of fun too. So I'm a college basketball nut for the next month.
Didn't the WCC tournament already start?
Yes. Yes. The Wild Boise State beat San Diego. Let's see. WCC. Yeah, San Diego, Pepperdine, and Portland beat Loyola Marymount. Wow, Portland is... Oh, I thought they were one of the teams that played yesterday. Pacific was down 56-9 at the end of the first half to Pepperdine. Oh my goodness, man, that's disgusting. WCC tournament's underway, so Gonzaga and St. Mary's are playing on Monday. Anyway, that's your college basketball roundup.
Yeah, Colorado-Oregon was a good game last night.
Yeah, does Colorado play on Saturday? Did I miss them? Let me check.
They're playing my Beavs, right?
I mean, you would know. You're the Beavs fan.
I think they're playing the Beavs.
Yeah, so Colorado plays Oregon State at 2 p.m. Pac-12 Network. So Cody Williams, Tristan Da Silva.
And Cody might be out. KJ Simpson. All those Beaver prospects.
All of them, yeah, all 0 of them. Man, I can't believe you guys were like as close as you were to making a Final Four, and then just don't build off it at all.
I mean, that team wasn't even that good.
I know, that was crazy. You guys are a 12 seed, right?
Something like that.
That would have been the lowest seed ever to make the Final Four. So, Cody Williams. Yeah, Cody Williams is hurt. He's been a little bit injury prone this season. Is that something to maybe consider with his draft stock at all?
Yeah.
Like, all things equal, yes, but like definitely low on the totem pole, I guess, in terms of things to consider.
I feel like there's a lot of injured players.
Yep. But yeah, we'll talk a lot about prospects tomorrow on our post-game show. Probably keep the recap of the game pretty short as the Blazers take on the Raptors. Anything else for the stream, Eric?
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Hope you all have a good rest of your night. Good Saturday. I hope to see you back tomorrow night.
Yep. Looking forward to talking about prospects tomorrow. Updated big boards. Eric, be ready to update that big board? All right. Oh, I'll do it at halftime of tomorrow's game. I'll update the big board graphic. Maybe we'll even do top 30. All right, so looking forward to that. On your way out, hit that like button. We appreciate it. It helps out the channel. And looking forward to catching you guys tomorrow. The Blazers fall to 17-44. Or is it 17-45?
I think it's 45.
17-45. What a beautiful record. The Blazers fall to 17-45 on the season. 9-22 at home. They've lost 9 games in a row at home. And we'll see if they can continue that streak tomorrow as they have a home game against the Raptors. Next week, Boston, Atlanta, New York, all home games. It's going to be interesting to see when their next home win is. But we'll have you covered with the postgame show. And with all that said, we're out of here. We'll catch you next time. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.